"Stop it, Sandy," the boy whined. Sticky fingers made a clumsy shuffle of the cards in his hand. "That's my candy. You already ate yours." The pudgy blonde girl defiantly held onto the candy bar she'd taken from her brother. No less round, the boy continued to whine as he dealt out the cards for another game of Old Maid. He was tired of Old Maid. He was tired of Sandy, and he was tired of the lake. He wanted to go back home where he could walk down to the corner and get a candy bar any time he liked. He didn't like having to wait until his mother gave him one, and now Sandy was taking the ones that were his. "Paul, you're doing it wrong," the younger girl admonished, through a mouthful of chocolate. "Am not," Paul replied. "I gave each of us the same number of cards." "No, you did it wrong," Sandy insisted. "You deal one for me, and then one for you, and then one for me." She kept on until her brother relented and reshuffled the cards and began dealing again. Their parents had gone out on the lake for a ride on a paddle boat, and Paul was bored. Oh, he was more than bored. He was ready to lose his mind. "Look, let's go outside," the boy suggested. "We can go to the lake, or the boathouse, or see if there are any tree houses out in the forest." Sandy shook her head full of blonde curls. "Finish dealing the cards, Paul." Her voice started to hit notes that only bats would be able to hear. Her brother gave in. It seemed like an awfully long time for their parents to be gone, and the sky was starting to look dark like a storm. Maybe staying inside was a better idea anyway. Trays rattled in the steamers in the dining room. Maybe they could get something to eat. "Come on, Sandy, let's go in there." He pointed to the dining room. "Maybe we can get a snack since Mom and Dad have been gone so long." He wasn't really hungry, but at home, whenever he was bored, his mother made a snack for them and put a movie in the machine. There were no movies here, so food was the only other option. Looking like a pair of cherubs with chocolate-covered fingers, the pair pushed the swinging doors of the dining room open and crept in. The staff hurried around like ants, loading trays in the warming tables or pouring ice into the salad bar. One woman was busy arranging a bed of ice cubes to put the tray of small cheesecakes onto. Another black and white clad woman stopped beside the cheesecake lady and said something very quickly in a language Paul did not understand. The pair turned to go into the kitchen, and before the door swung all the way shut, Paul saw what he wanted. Just inside the door was a huge cooler full of desserts. In the brief moment he had been able to see, he could see rows of dark chocolate cake, creamy cheesecakes, coconut cake, and bowls of pudding. He grabbed Sandy's sticky fingers and pulled her along behind him. All they had to do was slip in the swinging door and dart into the open cooler, and all the desserts would be theirs. He held his finger to his lips to let his little sister know that they were being sneaky, like Elmer Fudd when he was hunting rabbits. He heard a clatter from deeper in the kitchen and knew now was their chance while everyone hurried to see what the noise was about. The two children quickly pushed open the door, saw no one in the immediate area, and lunged for the cooler. Inside was everything he'd imagined. Pudding, cakes, pie, cheesecake, bread pudding. Paul was still staring open-mouthed at the vast array of sweets when the light went out. The door had been shut. Sandy let out a quick squeak of fear as the light vanished, but never got to a full scream because the sound of snarling dogs froze the sound in her throat. They were surrounded not by a sugary dreamland, but by terrifying beasts. They barked once. Everything now seemed threatening. They were in the hotel, or had been, at some point. I had accepted that the evil dog-like things were real. That was an unsettling thought, but I needed to find somewhere they could not get me first. The gluttonous children should have been safe in the middle of the hotel. How had those things gotten into the coolers? I probably didn't want to know the answer to that. Behind the counter was a door leading into an office. Just what I was looking for. The room was small, held 2 large filing cabinets, a desk, and a couple of chairs. There was no window, but a decent-sized duct looked like the way out if I had to escape quickly. course, that plan might show that I watched too many movies. I shut the office door and made my first unpleasant discovery. The door opened out into the lobby. Blocking it was going to do me no good. I felt the heavy weight of hopelessness on me. My plan was a failure, just like everything else. It was a familiar feeling, and part of me wanted to wrap myself in a dark cloud and wallow in my self-pity. Wait! It had a lock on it! That would buy me a little time, and if I put the desk and cabinets in front of it, that would be enough that I should be able to decide what to do next. The desk and cabinets were extremely heavy, and the temptation to give up was strong, but finally I managed to get it to slide a couple of feet. In this tiny room, that was all I needed. Next, I moved the desk at an angle to the cabinet. If anyone tried to move those by pushing them into the room, it would run into the desk, which would in turn only move a couple of inches before running into a wall. Felt pretty smug about the arrangement, until I tried to open the vent. I actually had no idea how to get it open, and I'm not mechanically inclined. My only chance was to find something to pry the cover off the vent. The cabinets yielded nothing that could be used as a lever, but the desk had a very small metal ruler. It would have to do. I wedged it between the vent cover and the plaster wall, watching bits of paint and white powder sift down onto the carpet. Slowly, the cover came free, and I could see the duct beyond. Now I wasn't sure I liked my idea anymore. Maybe I was being silly and should go back up to my room and try to sleep. Crash! It sounded like the front doors being thrown open hard enough to break the glass in the panes. Now, the wind had been picking up. Maybe a storm coming in off the lake. Maybe the wind had blown the door open. Tick, tick, tick. It sounded like a dog's toenails on the floor of the lobby. A very big dog. I was listening to the sounds out in the lobby so intently that when the phone rang from its place on the floor, I couldn't help but give a yelp. It was quick, but it was loud. Anyone or anything out in the lobby was going to have heard it. The phone had been dead when I tried it earlier. Tick, 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 just outside the door, and then a wet, snuffling noise. At the crack under the door, I could see the shadow of something pacing back and forth in front of it. The sniffling sound came again, followed by deep breath drawn just under the door, followed by huffing exhales. I knew it had found me, and I knew exactly what it was. It then did something no dog would have done. It slid a strangely hand-like paw under the door and pulled. Cheap plywood splintering under sharp claws. Thank God it didn't have thumbs, I thought as I scrambled for my escape route.